Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody. Coast to Coast, This Week in America. The fiction adventure Agatha and Frank's love story, Stranded on Rosland Island by Jolynn Rose, is the story of a couple who retired, went on their dream adventure sailing around the islands off the East Coast, ending up on an island. Well, they learned over time that island wasn't just any island. Jolynn Rose has lived in Oregon most of her life. She traveled with her husband while he was in the U.S. Army and their two sons. At 60 years old, she found she liked to write. She joined forces with her mother, Lola Smith, who was 81, to write the Roselander books. They enjoyed writing together, so they've written 8 books. Jolynn Rose, author of Agatha and Frank's story, Stranded on Rosland Island, is our guest on This Week in America. Jolynn, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate you having me.
What a great imagination you and your mother have. I love the storytelling. I love the story behind this Agatha and Frank story. Why did you decide to start writing? And I mentioned when it was. It was only recently. Why did you decide to start writing? Because you've had that talent there. You could have been doing this years ago.
Well, my father had passed away, and my mother was really having, difficulty with it because they'd been married for like 60 odd years, of course. And when she was in her early 20s, she wrote a little short story to Reader's Digest, and I thought it was amazing. Of course, I was young, and I decided, well, let's, because we were living out there at that point, and I asked her, let's write a story, let's finish that story, let's make it something fun. And so we started writing on it, and it was just too difficult. And I had just seen some mermaid shows on the History Channel. They had discovered mermaids and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, let's write about this. And all the rest of it's pretty much history. We just started writing and just having a grand old time, just thinking outside the box. And like I said, my mom was 80-something at that time, and for her to get creative outside the box was fun to see her grow. So as you read each of my books, the creation gets even better and better, and they're fun books, which my goal is to make it a fun family book that you can enjoy.
Well, and that's nice to have out there, because there's so many books you feel depressed as you're reading them. And if you read your books, in particular, Agatha and Frank's story, it's a good story. It's a fun story. It's an enjoyable read. The book's available, by the way, at authorreputationpress.com, as well as Amazon and the usual places. You mentioned Mermaid, and this book is unique, and you take sort of a different approach, including using mermaids. You call them mer-being in the book. Talk about that aspect of it, because that does make it unique, and it's a fun part of the story.
Well, when you think about human beings, it's, all races, all, male, female, man, woman, kids and everything. Well, when you say mermaids, they're basically talking about the females. And as we started writing the book, we're like, wait a minute, okay, human beings, then it should be mer beings, because it matches with the other beings that, you call other things beings, alien beings, all those things. Yes. So it just made sense to me and Mom that that's what they should be called. So now everybody can start calling them mer-beings instead of mermaids.
And it makes a lot more sense. I love the explanation. I don't know why we got mermaid in the beginning. I like being better, and that's in the book, Agatha and Frank's story, Stranded on Rosland Island. Jolynn Russell is our guest, and Rose is our guest and on the program today. Information on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Where did this idea come from? Once you come up with the concept, you've got this thing with the mer-beings in the back of your mind, this whole adventure for Agatha and Frank. Where did this come from?
To be honest, I have no clue. It just, me and Mom just started having fun with it, and we decided that my mom always liked Agatha as a name, so she got to pick Agatha because we, of course, we knew it was a couple that we were there. And my husband always wanted to name one of our boys, one of our kids, Frank. So I dedicated the Frank to him. So then the Agatha and Frank are basically my mom and me is Agatha, and Dad and my husband are Frank. So you get a little bit of all of us in there. And the island, it was kind of funny because we watch a lot of Discovery, History channels and stuff like that. And so I kind of took off from that. And what I thought was interesting through the years, if you look at my book years and when they discover stuff, it's long after I had already written it in my book. So I think that was always kind of fun to see happen.
It's got to be amazing to go through this process. And let's talk about how long it took to write this book and the concept of writing with someone else. How did you divide up who was going to do what in writing the book, Agatha and Frank's story?
Well, we started out with, we just sat down at the dining room table and started talking about it. And then me and my husband lived in the RV outside, and my husband had to go to the hospital, so he wasn't there. So I had all this time to myself. And so I would write just all night, just coming up with stuff. And then I would go in the morning, and me and Mom would, just kind of brainstorm over the base I wrote. And then she'd add, because my mom's an avid reader, that she was just excited about adding her input. And so as time went on, we kind of went back and forth on how we wanted it to be written. So I did most of the writing. Mom did most of the, thinking outside the box as far as, okay, this is what I see in books. This is what you need to do. Kind of like you want to remind people, like the second and third book is, as far as I was concerned, is I wrote the first book. If you didn't buy the first book, you don't need to, don't buy the second one. And that kind of mentality. And Mom's like, no, you got to remind everybody. So that's how, with her experience as a reader, it came in really handy.
How many books have you written by yourself and then with your mom?
I actually have, I'll show you the first book, which is kind of funny. This is my first book. And if you see, it's really thin.
Yes.
And it's just the base story. It's a kind of like a short story. So Agatha and Frank actually get shipwrecked on the island and get rescued on the island in this little tiny book. I thought it was going to be a huge book. I thought it was kind of funny is that after I got it published, it was like, I got to start writing more.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, the story moves so well. It's not one of those where you'll look at it and go, I got 623 pages to read. I'm not sure I want to invest that much. It's a story, and it's a fast-moving story.
Yeah. I used to be a reader when I was, younger, and then of course, like most people, they've gotten away from reading, which I've noticed since, I've been writing books.
Yes.
But it's just, I like to be able to pick up a book and read it in one night and call it a day, and then I can move on to the other ones. And the other thing with my books is you won't find the same thing in any of them. The base is there, but everything else is a little different because another author issue is they write the same thing, and you can figure out what's going to happen before you even finish the book. So you don't even finish the book. So my books, you don't get that. You'll never know what you're going to find in my books.
Each book is unique. The book we're talking about specifically now is Agatha and Frank's story, Stranded on Rosland Island by Jolynn Rose, our guest on the program. She's got a copy of it she's showing. We've got a copy up on the video. And to get the video version of the show, just go to thisweekinamerica.us. The video's there, and you'll find us on YouTube, or just Google it, and you'll find us on YouTube and be able to watch and see all of the book covers here. I mentioned Agatha and Frank. You talked about where the names came from. Are these based on anybody you know? The couple, they decide this is a lifelong dream they've wanted to do. Based on anybody or just totally fabricated?
All fabricated. You always, hear about, when we retire, we're going to go do this. We're going to go do that. And I figured, I don't sail. I don't like the ocean that much. I mean, I love to look at it, but put me on it is, not my big dream. And so I thought it was kind of fun just to write about something. I actually researched everything I put in there, like all the sailing names and whatever they call those sailing things. So it's all accurate because I wanted to make sure even all the creatures that are in my books are accurate. I do the research to make sure that, the different creatures are real in life. So, it kind of made it fun because I had to learn stuff too.
Well, it's interesting. You've talked about how much fun this is, the adventure not only of writing it, but researching it, coming up with the characters, tying them together in various scenarios. What keeps you writing? Is it all of those elements that you talk about? Because I get the impression you're really having a good time.
Yeah, well, it started out that it was just fun because, like I said, it was experience with Mom. We got to, be best friends that way. We got to enjoy each other's company, and we just laughed so hard the whole time. And then after the first series, which is basically all about the merbeings, me and my husband started traveling across the country in an RV. One of those dreams that everybody usually says they have, and we actually did it. So my mom kept asking, well, when are you going to send me in? Because she was my editor. And so she kept asking, well, when are you going to send me more of the book? So I continued to write until, and then I would send her via email the parts that I've written, and she would edit it and she would send it back. So we were doing cross-country editing as we went. So that was more, I just love the idea of sharing things with my mom. And so she passed away last year about this time. And so I haven't written very much since because she was my muse. Yes. And she was very important in all my writings. In fact, art in, I think it's this book. Yeah, the art in this book is actually probably 85% her drawings. And the other 15 is my drawings. So the really nasty looking stuff is me, and the stuff is my mom's.
Mom did the good stuff. In the book, Agatha and Frank's story, Stranded on Rosland Island, is what Jolynn was holding up. And I'm so sorry to hear about the passing of your mother, but what a great way to create memories. And, you tell these stories, they're still vivid in your mind. What a great time you obviously had in writing with her and working with her on these projects.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a really wonderful time that we had together. So I'm glad we had that time before she passed.
With all the books that you've written, what would you like to see become of the books? What do you hope happens with the books and with your writing career as well?
I think it would be fun to have this one made into a movie because it has so many unique things in it.
Yes.
And so I think that would be fun. And then let me grab one of these. This book, the travel books, actually is about history that around the country. We didn't go to all of the tourist traps. We went to the small towns, and we actually I looked at the history, went and did the history, and it made history fun because you could put a name to something or a building. It was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed ourselves tremendously. But what I did is, if you look at it, this maps here is the states that this covers. And then if you look at the next one, it has a whole bunch more states filled in because that's all the states that we went to. So each of my books will cover the states that are in the book. So you can actually look at the book and go, oh, okay, what's in Texas? And find out, the fun things to do in Texas that don't cost anything.
Well, yeah, it makes history come alive, and it makes history relatable. And the books that, for those of you just listening and not watching, part of the Agatha and Frank series, Road Trip Adventure, Living the Dream, Exploring America, all those are available. The usual places, if you go to authorreputationpress.com, you'll get information there on Agatha and Frank's story. So this history, you've really enjoyed this, haven't you? Traveling and being able to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when I started looking into the history part of the towns, I mean, you have so many small towns in the United States that are just kind of dying.
Yes.
And it's really hard to see that. But when you start thinking about the history that they lived through and that they're there, it's sad, but it's so unique that they had the opportunity to make the different history. And the diversity of the people, it's just, from all countries. I mean, they're everywhere. Every type of person you can think of is in one state or another. And it's amazing if you think like the Germans in Texas. You think, wow, that's a long way from New York. But there was a lot of colonies of German people there.
Yes.
And they actually fought some in the wars too. So it was pretty interesting stuff.
I like the concept of Agatha and Frank's story stranded on Rosland Island becoming a film, a TV series, something. It's so visual. The way you write the characters, the way you write the scenes, it sets it up for that. Talk about as you go through and the ability to be descriptive. So it's not just words we're reading. We see images with those words. How challenging is that to not overwhelm us with detail, but give us enough that we really can see what you're talking about, the characters and the landscape?
That would be my mom. My mom always says you got to have the visual way.
Yes.
You have to be able to see them. So in when I describe the mermaids, because there's different clans of mermaids, I described each of them so you visually could see what they would look like. And Mom was really, wanted to make sure that when you read something that you get it, that it's not okay, because you can read some books and you can imagine one thing. It's kind of like listening to a song and then you see a video of it and it's like nothing you thought it was going to be.
Right.
So right. when I wrote these books, that was something Mom instilled in me, is to make sure that you can, have people envision it.
And we all have a different perspective as we're reading that. That's what's so fun about that. We can create our own world. You laid out there for us. We can take that and interpret it in our own minds. The book is Agatha and Frank's Story, Stranded on Rosland Island by Jolynn Rose, our guest in the program. Book available at authorreputationpress.com, the usual places as well. What are you working on now? I got just a minute or so left in the program. Are you got some ideas for a new book?
Yeah, I have another travel book that I'm working on, because I like doing series 4 books, and so I have another travel book, and then I'm thinking about writing this murder mystery book. My daughter-in-law wants me to write a murder mystery book, so we'll probably do that, because I kind of get ideas and I write them. Start writing them, and then I just kind of go, okay, I'll get to it later. So I think that's one of the, they call writer's block.
Yes. It'll come to me at some point, and then I'll go back and I'll finish it. And we hope that you finish all of those ideas. I like all of those. The murder mystery would be fun, and certainly the travel books have done quite well. So with us on the program, Jolynn Rose. The book we talked about specifically, but one of several that she's written, Agatha and Frank's Story, Stranded on Rosland Island. You'll find the information at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, authorreputationpress.com. It's available. And if you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, you can link on to get information on Jolynn and her books. Jolynn, a pleasure having you on the program. Congratulations on the success of Agatha and Frank, and we look forward to more books and having you back on the program. Thank you for being with us on the show.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks. Enjoyed it.
It has been our pleasure. Jolynn Rose, author of Agatha and Frank's Story, Stranded on Rosland Island. You'll find information on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Back on today's program after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, associate producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, segment producer. Ben Watson, webmaster. Otto Bechet, director of engineering and TV production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, executive producer of This Week in America.